Today we are going to be talking about getting fitter, meal prep and captaincy. Welcome to episode 20 of Run It Straight. Question number one today comes from Joey. I'm 15 years old and I want to know how I can get fitter. I would say do some cardio. If you're starting at zero, anything will work. One thing that we have found is that setting goals and having targets is a much more effective way for you to get started and for you to stay on track. So that's kind of where I would start. So first, let's look at you going and doing a Bronco. So a Bronco, it's referred to as a Bronco under 1.2. You set up markers basically at a goal line, then at a 20, a 40 and a 60 metre mark. So the test itself, you go to the 20, back to the 40, back to the 60, back, that's one lap. And then you perform 5 laps continuously as fast as you can. So once we've got that number as a starting point, regardless, whether the number is good, bad, or indifferent, that gives us an idea where you are, and it gives us an idea is, okay, we want to improve that. Now, what do we want to improve it to? I think it said in here that you are 15 years old. Having a look at our grading grid that we use to give us an idea of where you should be for your age. For forwards, you want to be running that Bronco in under 5.19. If you're a back, you want to be running it at 5.09. So based off that, you can do the math calculation on that yourself. Go and perform the Bronco test, get an idea of where you are, and then we can look at, okay, how can we start to chip away at that? So we know where we need to be, and then after that you need to start running. Let's assume that you're doing nothing right now. I would say a nice starting point would be to get a couple of long, slow cardio sessions in, and that might literally just be going for a run, going for a jog, although I'd like a run more than a jog, and getting a third session, which is at a field which you're getting a lot higher velocities. Essentially a field session. One thing to keep in mind, if you jump into this and you jump into it too quickly, too much, too hard, too fast, your volume's too big, it's like I'm going to go and I'm going to run 10 Ks and I'm going to do it every second day, you're going to get all sorts of overuse problems, you're going to develop shin splints, which we do see in kids that get too keen and excited. The rule of thumb, generally speaking, is let's say you're starting with that 2 jogs, maybe they're 4Ks twice a week, and then you're going to do a field session with conditioning in it. Don't increase the total volume, so the total distance that you're running by more than 10% per week. If you keep it at 10% per week, your body's going to adjust to that distance, and the chances of you getting shin splints and overload issues is going to be a lot less. Chris?
Yeah, I think one of the main tools that helps, especially with the rugby league boys, is Map My Run. So it's an app that you can download on your phone. Free app. Yep, don't need to pay for it. And essentially, it's got a GPS, so it tracks your distance, it tracks your speed, but it also tracks your heart rate if you have something to pair up with it. So that's it's very handy. It also tracks the elevations and so forth. But the main thing is we need a total time. And distance, and you can sort of track whether you're improving with that or not.
Yeah, it gives you constant feedback. So let's say that you are running 4Ks every kilometre, and you can go into the app in the settings and you can modify the information that it does give you. But it'll typically tell you, you've reached the 1 kilometre mark, you're running an average of 5 minutes and 35 seconds per kilometre, and then it'll tell you the last kilometre, the split pace that you ran. So when you get to the second and then the third, it might say that your average is 5:34, but your split pace, the last kilometre that you ran, was at 5:42. So it's like, okay, you're getting slower as you're getting more fatigued, or whatever it happens to be. And if you want to run a specific time, it's like, you want to get back. You might be running 2 Ks out from your house and then 2 Ks back, and there's a specific time that you want to beat. It will give you a really good idea of where you're at, so that you can judge whether you need to be putting in more or whether you're running a bit slower.
Yeah, just a little side note on that one. A lot of people underestimate how good of a tool that is, especially with the updates, real-time updates while you're running. It gives you that extra motivation or extra goal to push you a little bit harder on your run. So we've found that when someone is tracking and they have goals and targets to reach, especially whilst they're running, they usually push themselves a little bit harder because they know that they are improving.
Yeah, and look, it really is like having a running partner with you, because normally when people go and train on their own, they typically don't train as hard as when they've got a training partner. And because the training partner is just going to push you a little bit, okay? It's someone else who, when you're feeling like you might want to back off, they're pushing you a little bit harder, and then vice versa. When you've got this and you know that, okay, my last run, my average split pace is 5:27, and you go out there and you run your first K and it's at 5:30, it's like, right, I've got to pick the pace up. You get the next one at 5:25, you get some satisfaction that you peeled a bit of time back, and then you keep pushing, the next one comes in at 5:23, and it gives you that encouragement to continually push, and there's no lying, the numbers are what the numbers are. So we've just found it has been a very, very useful tool to use. Like we said, you test at the start, get an idea, do the Bronco, get an idea of where you are at, and then set some targets, start training 2, 3, 4 weeks, retest on that Bronco. And look, even the Bronco itself is actually a really good conditioning tool just to use. And like I've said in here, maybe you're doing that one field session a week, which over time you can increase. We've got programs that we give out to all of our boys, particularly during the off season, for all of their running to try to manage the workload. And it is split between long, slow stuff and interval work, and as they get fitter we might drop down a little bit more of the long slow, and the work will get a lot more intense and it'll get more specific to the game of rugby league. But the Bronco test itself, you could start every field session off by actually running that test and running variations of that. You might do a full Bronco 5 laps, see how you go, and then you might run a 4-lap test, which might be a minute faster, so to speak, because the distance is less. Then you might run 3 laps, and then 2, and then 1, and you might have so you run a full Bronco, 4-minute rest.
Yeah.
4 laps, a 3-minute rest. 3 laps, a 2-minute rest. 2 laps, a 1-minute rest, and then a single 20, 40, 60. And that's a fantastic field-based session where you're having to accelerate, decelerate, change direction, which are all qualities that you need in the game rather than just steady state running. The reason that I wouldn't say to go and do a whole ton of that sort of training right off the start is we find that when people are doing a higher amount of higher velocity work early on in the piece, they tend to get muscle pulls.
Yep.
You get groins, you get hamstrings, you get quads. So we want to build up that that work capacity to be able to work at those higher velocities, not just jump straight into it. And with long, slow, you never really see those kinds of people don't pull a hammy or a quad. The flip side though is occasionally if someone overdoes it, you do get overuse injuries. Anything else?
Yeah, look, the Bronco times that we mentioned earlier for a 15-year-old, if you see the times and you're looking at it and you're saying, oh, there's just no way I'm going to reach that time, don't be too disheartened. Cardio is one of those things where if you do it enough, your body will react much quicker than it is for weights training, for example.
Yeah,
so
you can go from sucking to at a pretty decent level in like 4 weeks.
Yeah,
and that can happen pretty fast.
And the other reason why we push very hard to start tracking your progress is because you'll see your first run, and then after a bit of time, let's say a month or two, you'll look back and be like, oh wow, was that really my run?
Yeah.
And you'll see how much it's improved now. But the key is obviously consistency.
The one other little thing that we'll put in there, which it pops its head up every now and then when we're talking about fitness and about times and things like that, obviously, is obviously your body fat levels are going to have a significant effect on the times that you run. So sometimes if you've got someone who's a bigger kid who needs to lose 5, 10 or 15 kilos, simply getting rid of that weight will make you so much fitter than you were previously, just because you're not carrying around a useless load there. So that is something, without us going in depth into that, that is something that you should definitely keep in mind. Spiro, with his first technical boo-boo. Okay, before we start, question number 2, just if the audio was a bit weird then and it's been fixed now, that was Spiro's fault because he didn't, what didn't he do? Music started playing, it was from his watch. He didn't put it on airplane mode, so we'll blame him. Thanks, Spiz. All right, question number 2, coming to us from Ollie. I'm 13, trying to gain weight, and I need help with meal prep. What's the ideal food for getting big? Isn't that a fun question? It's the kind of thing, always people are like, what's the one secret? What's the one this, the one that? The answer is there is no ideal food. You just need to do the right thing on a consistent basis for a long period of time.
No magic pill?
No magic pill. Okay. Not yet. There's no, the serum they gave to Captain America to make him massive and jacked. Yeah, it doesn't exist, okay? Basically, you want to gain weight, you got to eat a calorie surplus. Same way when we talk to people about trying to lose weight, you need a deficit. If you want to gain weight, you need to eat in a surplus. You need to eat a sufficient amount of protein to gain weight, between 1.6 and 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. You need to weigh yourself on a regular basis. Now, on that front, weighing yourself is very, very important. Obviously, when the boys are coming in here, we take their skin folds and we do measure them. So obviously we use the scales, then we take the skin folds. We look at whether, if their weight's going up, is it lean tissue, is it body fat, is it a combination of both. But, you know, pretty simply, if you're trying to gain weight, you can step on the scales. If it's not going up, then you're not in a calorie surplus, okay? Number one. Now, we try to get guys, if you're trying to gain weight, we try to get you to weigh yourself as frequently as you can. First thing in the morning, go to the bathroom, step on the bathroom scales, get your phone out, go into notes, write the date and write the weight that you saw in the scale that morning. With that number, you can then look at, okay, you want to progressively over the course of a week, you want to be seeing that going up. Now, over a week, you're going to see daily fluctuations that occur. Add it all up at the end of the week. Let's say Monday of week 1, you weigh 69 kilos, okay? Monday of week 2, you're at 69.7. Monday of week 3, we're not looking at just the one-off weight, we're talking about the average from the previous 7 days. You go to 70.4, okay? We can see that you're gaining weight, we can see that it's working and it's working at a decent enough level. The reason that day-to-day fluctuations aren't as important is there's a few things that can cause you to gain or lose a significant amount of weight over a very short period of time. So if you consume a fair amount more of sodium above what you would normally consume on it. So let's say on a daily basis, you're using MyFitnessPal, you're tracking your food, you're eating 3,000 calories, right? If you go down in the, where it's tracking carbs, proteins, fats, there's also a column where it shows sodium, which is just salt. If you have a look at that, on a daily basis, maybe you're having 2,000 milligrams of salt. And then on one particular day, you might consume 2,500, an extra 500 milligrams of sodium. You'll see the next day when you step on the scales, there could be a jump of a kilo. And you'll be like, yeah, I'm getting jacked, it's working. It's like, no, it's just water, okay? Every 400 to 500 milligrams of sodium that you have above your normal daily intake, your body will typically retain around about a litre of extra, or a kilo on the scales, of extra weight. So that doesn't really count. Yeah, look, it is lean tissue, but it's not muscle mass, which is obviously what we want to be seeing going up. Other things that can influence that is if you've gone and you've done, a previous question we were talking about doing cardio, if you've gone and you've done a whole lot of cardio, a whole lot of training, it's hot, you've sweat a lot of fluids out, sodium's come out with it, you could see a pretty big drop the next day on the scales. This is why we said you need to take it across the course of a week and you need to get an average. And what I would say is, as much as possible, that day that you're like, okay, Monday's like my big, I want to see how I am, make sure you're doing it at the same time of the day, same day of the week, same distance from when you've done your cardio sessions, okay? So, look, the best thing is just to do it every day, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you get those numbers. And you'll see, if you do cardio on a Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Saturday, on a Wednesday, a Friday, and a Sunday, you're probably going to be pretty light on the scales. So that's something to keep in mind. Carbohydrate intake, your carbs go up. Again, when your body stores carbohydrate, as glycogen in the muscles and in the liver, it does store water along with it, so you will see a fluctuation on the scales there as well. Probably one of the best examples of this is when someone goes on like a low carb, high fat, high protein diet, is they'll lose a couple of kilos in the first few days. That's all just water weight. The carbohydrate storage in the body is around about 600 grams. You're storing 2 mils of water along with every gram of carbohydrate, so there's about 1.5 to 2 litres or 1.5 to 2 kilos of weight, which will disappear straight away. You haven't lost any body fat or anything like that. It's literally just carbohydrate and water. So the flip side of that's the case. If you've trained and your carbohydrate stores are fairly empty, then you refill them, water's going to come in, you're going to see a jump in the scales. This is why we say take it every day, try and get consistent with that. What else do I need to mention to Ollie?
Okay, I'll jump in there.
Yep.
So one thing to understand about meal prepping and trying to gain weight, being in a calorie surplus, everyone burns a different amount of calories. So no one person is the same. Let's just say, for argument's sake, someone burns 2,000 calories. You would need to eat above 2,000 calories to be in a calorie surplus. But then you also have genetic freaks who, we do have one, Josh, in our program, who needs to eat 10,000 or plus?
11.
11,000. He's up to 11,000 calories. If he doesn't eat that, he's no longer in a calorie surplus, he won't actually put on any weight. So that's the reason why we get everyone to use the app, MyFitnessPal. Track your calories, figure out how many calories it takes for you to actually put on weight. So once you're weighing yourself every week, you figure out, okay, it takes 3,000 calories for me to put on weight. And then continue doing that every week until that stops, and then you've got to increase the number again.
Yeah, the body will adjust, and look, it goes both ways. For people trying to lose weight, for people trying to gain weight.
Exactly.
And then we could pick two 13-year-olds that they're the same height and they weigh the same and they're doing relatively the same level of activity. And one might need 4,500 to gain weight. One might gain weight on 2,100. It's just the principle of individual differences. It is what it is. But like Chris said, you have to track it.
Yep. That's the key. Tracking and measuring everything will get you the progress. Now, on top of that, let's go for more of the meal preps now. The most accurate way is to use MyFitnessPal and actually weigh your food. So you know how many calories are going in. Now, there is a difference between weighing your food raw, so before you cook it, or after you cook it. So making sure you enter
the right way
in correctly.
Yeah.
So again, the different types of cooking it, different weighing everything as well, and then looking at the types of food. So obviously you want to hit your protein goals and so forth. Now, just a little side note, if you want to simplify it even further for all the ones out there that are just looking for a simple answer, chicken, rice, and broccoli. And a lot of it.
Yeah.
That would be my answer.
You want to look at, if you're someone who's struggling to gain weight, go on YouTube, Google any of like the top 5, 10 bodybuilders, look at what they're eating when they're trying to gain weight. And look, so many, they will eat different things, but all they do is that they eat a lot.
Yeah.
Like we said, we've got Josh and there's a few boys. I think Joey's on a lot now. Kelly's on here.
He might be pushing for 5 or 6 now.
Mace is just over 6.
There you go.
It's a lot of food, okay? But there is no secret. There's no secret meal. There's no secret pill. It's you need to track. You need to find out where your balance is, and then you need to eat 400 or 500 calories per day in excess of that, and then you'll start to see your weight go up.
And another thing, you might be sick of me saying this, but it's consistency. It's not a matter of, okay, I'll track today and then not track tomorrow. Hit my numbers today, but then don't hit it for the rest of the week. It doesn't work like that. Like anything, like getting fitter, like getting stronger, like putting on weight, you just need to be consistent with what you're doing.
Yep. It's not sexy, but that's how it's done.
Yep.
All right. Question number 3. What does it mean? This one was anonymous. What does it mean to be a captain? Well, being a captain is about being a leader. First and foremost, being a leader is about taking responsibility, which is not really a trendy word these days. And what that means is obviously responsibility for yourself, for each of your individual teammates, and for the team's performance as a whole. It means leading by example with everything from training to, pre-game warm-up, obviously to the level of effort on the field, even to after a game, winning and losing the right way are things, and being able to do that. And, if one of your teammates hasn't had a great game, to be able to chat with them and talk to them after the game and try and bring their spirits back up, that's a big thing. This is what the captain needs to do. There's going to be a lot of weight that's on you, and you can't be one of those players who's going to go and have a sook or is going to get down into the dumps. You've always got there's a cause that's bigger than you that you need to be aware of, and you need to be pushing that forward. Rugby leagues, obviously, it's a team sport and a contact sport, and your team needs to feel that you're fully engaged in every minute of every game. This is oftentimes why the best player on the field is not necessarily the one who's going to be the captain. Okay, but they can swing in and out of games. They can be temperamental at times. These are qualities that you don't want from the captain. You want them fully engaged all the time, and you want them to be fairly level-headed. To take all the ups and downs that do come with it and try and carry everyone else along with you. Now, there's a lot of different leadership styles. You could be the Sam Burgess type, who's just give me the ball, I'm going to run the ball as hard as I can, and I'm going to lead from the front by example. Or you could be someone, maybe you're a fullback, you're someone like Tedesco, who is constantly talking. He's doing the fullback things, which is organising the defensive line, but he's just chatting and chatting and chatting, getting people up, making sure the backs are getting in the right position, and then coming in and doing his actual physical job, which is being active, effort on effort plays, which other players around you see. and then they feed off the back of that. Chris?
Yeah, I think one of the, obviously you've covered a lot of that, but one of the main attributes I think as a captain is being able to step up in the times where the team's under the pump and everyone's looking up to you for guidance. So as a captain, that's when when everyone's heads down, it's your job to sort of raise everyone up. So when everyone's looking at the negatives, you're there leading by example and basically telling the team to come with you. So there needs to be a balance of obviously talking a lot while you're on the field, communicating to your players, and just really hyping everyone up. And then there's the whole toughness factor as well about being the captain, so leading by example.
And you know what, to be able to do a lot of like the stuff that we've been talking about, the captain should probably be pretty close to the fittest player on the field.
I would say, yeah.
Because you need to be able to talk all the time when everyone else. Was it last episode or the episode before when we had
About Carrigan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you saw how much he was talking and communicating, and that's leadership right there, those qualities.
Yeah.
But to be able to do that when everyone else is gassed and they're just looking around looking for, okay, when's the next little breather, when's the ball going to go into touch, or when's there going to be a penalty so I can catch my breath, and then you're jibber jabbering the whole time, you're trying to get them up as well as talking to your half, your 5'8", things that are getting organised. You need to be able to be fit enough to be able to communicate and even to be able to think, okay? As people get fatigued, they make bad decisions. As the captain, you need to be making good decisions for the whole game. So I would say leadership, you want to be fit enough so that you can lead for the entirety of the game. I think that's pretty much what it means to be a captain.
That's the main thing.
All right, guys, that's going to do us for episode 20 of Run It Straight. Please follow us, like us, come over to Instagram. There's a lot of good stuff that's going up on there. Follow us on YouTube. We've got shorts that are starting to come out now. If you've got any questions, please send them in. Please be as specific as possible with those questions. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Cheers.